Are Florida State's major problems fixable?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day, each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, where right now new customers can bet $5, and if it wins, you can get $300 in bonus bets to use across FanDuel. We're going to be talking about the long-term plan for Florida State to conclude today, how they can fix the program so it's consistent year to year to be a top 10 program. We're also going to talk about what needs to be fixed specifically short-term this year and some of the things that are working that maybe Florida State can even use more. But overall, the key starts with what's first, grading the Seminoles. And if you take nothing away from this podcast more than this, make sure you know the following. Florida State is a good football team, but it is flawed. And I'm going to break that down because the defensive pass rush obviously is a major problem. They don't always find the consistent answers they need on offense. It's not perfect, but this is still a pretty good football team. Need to work on some things, but even coming off a loss, think about where Florida State was a year ago compared to now. It is dramatic improvement. So let's dig into the grades by position. I'm going to talk about quarterback all the way to safety and just go through it. These are my takes. I'm going to use a couple of words that I think of to define the position and or player, and then just expand on it. I'd love to hear your comments. Some of you may or may not agree much, if at all, with my grades. Fire away. I'm happy to hear what you have to say. So first up, it's pretty straightforward. Tommy Castellanos is the starting quarterback. By the way, I want to make a quick comment on Kevin Sperry. He looks really good for a young player. They've got a good guy there coming up the ranks. But as far as Tommy, the two words that I used for him were leader and clutch. The fourth down pass to get the Noles even into a situation to go to overtime. That's a money ball. Those kinds of plays, yeah, it's coaching, it's experience and all that, but Tommy has a bit of it factor to it. Give the young man credit. We all knew he could run. I've had the pleasure of seeing him play corner, play receiver, play all kinds of positions coming up in high school, 7-on-7, and it really wouldn't matter where you placed him. If you moved him right now to safety, he'd figure it out. Not that he wants to play any of the spot. He's the quarterback. He's going to be the quarterback. But he's that guy. He just loves football. Tommy Castellanos loves football. And he's used that not only to help himself, but he's become a leader. That's part of maturity. And it's really important to have when the most important position in sport is a key cog to your leadership council overall as a football team. Makes it easier for Norvell long-term to sell recruiting and everything else too. Look at this guy. Look where he's at. This is the kind of guy that's going to represent our program, blah, blah, blah. That makes it easy. Tommy's leadership is massive. He's a playmaker. He makes the it plays. All those things are great. And above all else, for Gus, he's a fit too. The offense obviously is good. So I don't think he's perfect by any means. I would still like to see him make a few more throws or decisions on time, etc. But he's about as close to just a straight up A grade as I can give. From what I thought he was to where he's really become now, it's amazing where Tommy is, especially as a passer, just the accuracy. I've denoted numerous times how Tommy Castellanos throws the deep ball well, and he still does. And he also makes those just absolute bullet passes when he needs to. Again, like the touchdown to Pittman, Tommy Castellanos threw a dime. Pittman made a great play too, but those are the kinds of plays that you can't be assured that every guy's going to make, even if they have more accuracy. That's really important. I think Florida State has done a great job in coaching him up and making him a part of the program, but hats off to Tommy for all the things that he's done so far this year. I give him an A- grade. And again, the long term, we're going to talk about that towards the end of the show, but just precursor. Florida State is in a way better spot than I thought they would be at this juncture at the quarterback spot in terms of depth. Sperry has picked up the offense. It just seems to be a fit emotionally, socially, and everything else for Florida State. They're going to transition probably to him at some point, or at least he's going to be in contention. That's a good place to be because oftentimes programs that bring in a transfer, you really don't know what you got next. At worst, you got a guy that's a good fit for your offense. Florida State's in a pretty good spot at running back as well. With the two words that I used, depth, balance. Those are the two things. They have several different guys they can use in a lot of different ways. Rodell was the key guy to begin the year, gets hurt right away. And Florida State's one of the top 10 programs of pretty much any measurement at the running back position. Depth is why. Cam Davis got banged up, but when he was healthy, he was helping replace Rodell. Sam Singleton, same thing. Chrome has played quite a bit, but he comes in and out of the lineup and doesn't get burned out. Everybody has a role. Jalen Lucas, really, really annoying to tackle. Screen pass, etc. He's not much fun. They use him as well. Keziah Holmes, he's been a guy they've used on the goal line. He's had a few runs in the Virginia game. That is a deep, deep running back room. I don't think there's any one guy that is ready to make a major jump to the NFL. But Sawchuk, who's now the starter basically, he's been really good too. There's nobody you can sit there and say, why is this guy playing? They're all good. They've got depth, and the balance in terms of style is great. Maybe the most consistent thing about the running back room that I will say, contact balance. They have a lot of guys that make yardage after they get hit. That's just wanting it. That's conditioning. That's mental toughness, all those things. The coaching staff at Florida State are all involved in this. I would say that Florida State's running back room, and the running back coaches and Gus and everybody, they all deserve credit. But those guys got to be challenging themselves too, because how often do you see a Florida State running back get hit, fairly close to the line? They always seem to fall forward. That's want to. And that's how Florida State football should be. Wide receiver is a much different situation. Playmakers and developing. Those are the two words that I used. Deuce is obviously ridiculous playmaker, and so is Dancy. I mean, his climb is one of the fastest tracks I've ever seen in any sport at any time. I thought Danzy might contribute a handful of plays this year because he was new to the wide receiver position. I missed on that one. I think most people, probably even the Florida State staff, did as well. Tim Harris Jr. is somebody I know, good coach, good guy, but Tim's really, really honest. I bet you if somebody walked up to him and said, did you expect this from Danzy? He'd be like, no. I'd be shocked if I heard anything else from Tim because he's a straight shooter. His ability to pick it up is starting to complement Deuce, and it makes it harder because you got to play 7-8 yards off Makai Dancy. So you got two guys there. McCoy's starting to play a little more. Squirrel is somebody I've talked about. They need to find a way. I discussed this on Saturday's show. They got to find a way to get him and Tommy totally in sync, especially in the screen game. And the problem there is the O-line is not the greatest in the wide receiver screen game. They got to figure that out, though, because that's an area Squirrel is really good. They may not have the right personnel for it. It's up to Florida State's coaches. They make millions of dollars. Figure it out. But they got to get him more involved. But overall, it's a developing group, and it's gotten better. And Deuce is your playmaker. So you really can't complain too much there. A-, by the way, for running back. I'm going to give a B to the receiver group. It's a little better than I thought it would be. Still haven't seen a ton from some of the sophomores. Well, Wayne's just getting into it. Need to see a little more from them. If Florida State's going to beat Miami or make it to the ACC title game, et cetera, they've got to have some of that. And above all else, if Florida State wants to make it to the ACC title game, they're probably going to need some of that it factor that I talked about with Tommy at the wide receiver position, not named Danzy or Robinson. Those two guys, we know we're going to make it. At some point, one of them's going to get banged up, or one of them's going to be out of the lineup for a key play, whatever. Somebody not named Deuce, not named Makai, it's going to have to be that guy in a key moment in a big game. Maybe it's NC State on the road, whatever. Let's see if that happens. Tight end. This one was by far the hardest to do because, my gosh, that has been a mash unit. Chase Lofton, freshman, impressed. Kind of been used as a wide receiver flex tight end, been banged up. There's Landon being hurt for most of fall camp didn't help. He's starting to play more. I'd like to see him getting more involved, but he hasn't been a major factor yet. Just hasn't. They're not getting him the ball. As a blocker a little bit, you get the point. Obviously, Pittman was baller against Virginia. He is not the reason they lost. But then Amari, it's kind of goofy because he's playing defensive end and tight end. So out of your 4 guys, in some way, shape, or form, Pittman's been banged up too. All of them have missed time. So giving a true grade it's guesswork. But the 2 words that I used were incomplete, because there's no way to give a complete grade, and very, very talented. Talent is no doubt. I mean, Florida State's tight end room is very talented. The only question now is, can they stay healthy? For a grade, I just gave them a B. When they've played, considering how dysfunctional it is for those guys, it's been good. And then you add Markston Douglas, a.k.a. Biscuit, who's a tremendous power blocker. It's a pretty nice combination. They got 5 guys that can play. Like, they've got guys, and they got a few walk-ons that can play too. So I think Florida State's in a pretty good spot at tight end. Just need them to stay healthy. I gave them a B grade. When we come back, I'm going to talk about offensive line and dive into the defense next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with no sugar and no crashes. What you're going to love most? How portable 5-Hour Energy can be. Just a 2-ounce shot to take with you wherever you go. Big taste in a tiny shot so you can take it wherever, whenever you need it. To the gym, to the office, just out with friends, or just trying to get through your day at the house while you clean things up. 5-Hour Energy is there for you. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine flavor an upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day whenever you get an opportunity to learn more about what's going on with Florida State football across the board. Now let's talk about the offensive line. This is an interesting study for my grade, and the 2 words that I use to explain them from my perspective: physical, consistent. Those are the 2 things that you just get. These are workmanlike guys. They are blue-collar 9-to-5ers. Absolutely. And to that end, it fits Gus Malzahn and his run game philosophy. Inside zone is the backbone. They'll use some split zone. They'll use a little gap here and there, some different things with buck sweep, etc., to get Tommy loose. But overall, inside zone, it's about as blue-collar a play as there is, because it's probably the most common running play at the college or professional level. And we're going to run it. This is what we're going to do. Like, Gus discussed this at his opening press conference as the offensive coordinator for the Florida State Seminoles. And he's been true to his word. That's what he's done for 20 plus years. And it's not going to change now. The key is the players have bought in. The physicality. They've got size. That's not a problem. Micah Pettis, never met him, but he's 350-ish. If that's your right tackle, that is a mountain of a man. And that kind of embodies what they're trying to do. Richie Leonard, Pettibone, Medley, Hanson, like, all those guys are big dudes that can move people. They are physical. And they're consistent. Game to game, you kind of know what you're going to get. The only thing with this group that didn't allow me to give them a higher grade, I don't think they're that great in the screen games. I talked about with Squirrel. They got to figure that out. Like, they got to get Squirrel more involved in the pass game. And I just don't think the offensive linemen get out in space that way. They are big earth movers. More traditional offensive line. That being the case, running the ball, like, I guarantee you, the running backs or Tommy are going to complain. And they're pretty decent pass pro, to be honest. And they actually grade out higher on Pro Football Focus in pass pro than they do in run blocking, which I'm still a little surprised by, because FSU's run game is elite. Having said that, overall, they're very consistent. I gave them a B grade, and I think that, to be honest, it's because I still expect more and for them to be looked at a little bit differently at the end of the season. They're going to develop more chemistry, because you got to remember, while these guys are experienced, 4 of them are new to the Florida State Seminoles. 4. And the other one, Richie Leonard, has only been at FSU for a little over a year. This group still has some growing to do, and I think it can finish it with an AA- grade. I really do. Got to figure out the screen game. Got to get even better in critical situations, running the football when they play better competition. Well, it really starts with Miami. They did it against Alabama for the most part, but they left a few plays on the board. Norvell talked about that. We should have scored more. That's the difference between an A and a B. It's a pretty fine line. But overall, I mean, that offensive line's been pretty good. I'm being kind of a harsh critic here. A lot of people would have given them an A- or B+. I'm going B because, again, I think they have more they can give, and it's just chemistry. It's nothing personal. O-line takes a long, long time. If you don't really look at offensive line over an entire season, it's difficult. And I'm doing this just 4 games in. It's a third of a season. The difference between FSU today, prior to playing Miami, and what they'll be, let's say, the final 2, going into the final 2 games against NC State and Florida on the road, is probably pretty big. So there's a long way to go for that group. Defensive end, and I was very specific on this. I put D-line in 2 categories here. The weak side, pass rushing defensive end / stand-up jack position, and then just D-line. Just to be clear. The first one I'm going to do is the pass rushers, and this is a problem. I gave them a C- grade, and the 2 words that I used are not what you want to hear, but it's just true. Outmanned, adjusted. They do not have a 6'4", 240-pound guy that every now and then you drop into coverage to fool somebody on a zone fire blitz, who also on 3rd and 7, when everybody in the entire stadium, including the other team's offensive coordinator, knows that guy's going to cock at an angle at a 7 technique, and he's going to run by your offensive tackle, and there's nothing you can do about it. Florida State doesn't have that guy on the roster, to my knowledge. That's a problem. You need to be conservatively 3 deep at that. They have 0. This is something we talked about last year, but it's just manifested. You had guys leave like Patrick Payton. I didn't have a problem with him leaving, etc. Jones leaving. Those are financial, NIL, cultural deals, but they didn't find somebody either. And here's the issue that we'll get into this. We get into it late November. But Florida State isn't going to have to just go out and get a defensive end or 2 in this year's portal. They're going to have to go out and get a couple and horrifically overspend. And I do mean horrifically, because there are a whole bunch of teams. Get ready to do a podcast about this on the Portal podcast. There are a whole bunch of teams that don't have pass rushers. That is Florida State's biggest Achilles heel. It's not even close. Again, I gave them a C-. They play hard. They're pretty good against the run. The Desir twins have helped out, but they're bigger body guys. They're better lined up in the dirt. You could play one of them at the jack, but they don't. That traditional DN in the dirt in the 3-man line is really different. They just don't have a pass rusher. So they've been using linebackers like Herring out there to at least help. But Florida State's pass rush is comical. And it really starts there. When an opposing team does not have to really scheme, and I mean truly scheme, to slow down your pass rush against one guy, it's a problem. Williams, they've moved him to down line, and I knew right away when they moved him there. When I saw that first depth chart, I was a little leery. He got up over 260. I think he got too big, to be honest. He's been a disappointment in that sense. Wherever he's played, he's just not that great a pass rusher. He plays hard. He just doesn't finish. But he's probably the closest thing they have to a consistent guy in that regard, along with the Desir twins. And they're true freshmen. Daryl's getting double teamed all the time. Daniel Lyons is okay. McCray's okay. But they don't have that guy. This is Florida State's biggest problem, and I'm not sure you can really fix it without putting yourself in very vulnerable situations with the blitzing, because just bringing one extra guy is not necessarily the answer. They need to bring 6 a lot of times the way they pass. Like, it's not good. So we'll see what Tony White comes up with the rest of the coaching staff against Miami. But if you give guys like Carson Beck time to throw, or anybody else in the ACC's got some pretty good passers, it is difficult to win. We'll see how the Noles adjust. When we come back, I'm going to finish this up and then give my thoughts on not just an important subject, how does Florida State avoid in the future what I just talked about with the pass rushers, and get into a spot where any game they roll into, that they've got the guys to not just be good, but Florida State's going to be more talented than the other team. That shouldn't be a situation at Florida State, but it is right now. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for businesses owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. Whenever a customer gets into a conversation, you need a phone system that keeps you connected. So if they leave a message, you're going to get it whenever you need it every single time. Quo is the number one business phone system that streamlines customer communications, and it works right through an app on your phone or your computer. So no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is the game changer because it answers after our calls, captures leads, and keeps businesses moving whenever you're off the clock as well as on the clock. So see why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. And we are also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you can get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. If you want to bet on over-unders, halftime scores, player props, and of course, just all the fun stuff you can do with parlays, you can do it on FanDuel. See what you're waiting to do right now, and just don't pass up on it. Make sure you hit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Florida State's defensive line, the down linemen, have been pretty darn good. They've gotten worn down maybe a little bit. You've got some freshmen probably not used to this many reps, this much physicality. By the way, shout out to the Desir twins. They've been good. They've had a few other freshmen play as well. They're going to get big Mr. Wynn back into the rotation they had beginning of fall camp. That'll help. But McCray, obviously Big Darrell, Williams, and those guys, mostly they've done a good job against the run. We've already discussed in the last segment how Florida State's pass rush is iffy at best, and it's just true. They're not that good. But against the run overall, they've been pretty good. The Virginia game, they got exposed a little bit because they just didn't tackle as well, and I don't think between the ears they were as focused. I bet they're more focused against Miami. Well, we'll see if that works out against a better offensive line than even Virginia had. And Virginia, give them credit, they did as well. But the line that I used, the two words I should say, massive, because Florida State's got one of the biggest D-line units in the country, and also just effort. They play hard. Considering how many times I spent segments, not just comments, but segments on Locked On Seminoles last year, talking about Florida State's defensive line loafing, not playing up to their capabilities. Warling knows they couldn't contain a mobile quarterback last year. It's better to talk about them from an effort standpoint than anything else. That's the one thing I appreciate about this group. They play hard, man. There are times they miss a run gap fit or whatever, and that sucks. But Florida State's effort has went up exponentially. That's goal number one. Every team that tries to rebuild a program, the effort meter is the key. I have talked with so many coaches about what it takes to get a program running in some capacity. And I'm thinking about going into high school coaching myself. It's like a broken record. Setting the foundation for how hard they work all the time, not just on the field, by the way. I'm not just clarifying practice. The reps that you do in the weight room, the reps you do, and how you eat, when you sleep, all those things. It is a slow, methodical process. I would say this group has bought in about as much, if not more, than anybody else. They're certainly in the conversation for top of the board. The difference between last year and this year is great. So for that, just, playing hard, it's not elite talent. I think Darrell's going to play in the NFL quite a bit. But outside of him, the Desir twins, it's too early to say how much they progress. They keep on this pace, they'll make it to the NFL, but they're not there yet. There's nobody else that I go, this guy's definitely a top 3 or 4 round pick. Maybe if Daniel learns more pass rush moves, he could be that guy. Maybe it's KJ Sanders. One of these guys could, but until some of them are natural pass rushers and none of them are, Florida State's D-line is still not where it needs to be. It's a problem with the down lineman as well. I already talked about the stand-up jack position, but I gave him a B-. The effort is A. They're just not playmakers. And part of it is scheme too. In the 3-man front, they're trying to eat up blocks a little bit. It's a combination scheme, but I'm not faulting anybody for effort. And this is light years better than what we saw last year. Linebacker is a little bit like, think of a construction crew. The guys that are putting in the real work, building a concrete wall or something, that's this group. They're the true 9 to 5 of anybody on the team. There's a lot of blue-collar players for FSU, but I put 9 to 5 in leaders. They got to set up the scheme. They got to help guys be lined up and all that. Playing linebacker in Tony White's scheme is not the easiest. Whether it's Herring, whether it's Nicholson, whether it's Omar Graham, Cryer, whichever guy you want to talk about, everybody seems to be bought in. That's all I can ask. Now, is there a, oh my God, this guy's going to be a first-round pick guy? No. Kind of like D-line, there just isn't that definitive playmaker. And that's what sets them back. It's not that they're bad, but I gave them the same grade. I gave them B- that I gave the down linemen. Play hard. They show up. They kind of do their jobs for the most part, but they're not making any quote-unquote game-changing plays. And that can be exposed at some point because 3rd and 3, you need to be able to get a TFL once in a while. You need to get a sack. And the guys that are moving out to the jack spot kind of go back. There's nobody that's dominating. They're all just good players. That's fine, but Florida State still needs more. Now we move to corner. This is a very unique scenario. I was a little iffy based on the intel coming out of fall camp on how this was going to go. Tony made it pretty clear that there was still room for depth chart movement. I always think that coaches say that because they're trying to motivate their players, and I totally think he was there. But based on who's played and when, he's not wrong. He's moved guys around. Quindarius has played a little bit more as time went on. He didn't adjust as quick as some other guys. Jabril Rawls figured it out quicker. He played more. He moved guys around to fit his scheme. The players that took it and had the capabilities to do so are playing more. Straightforward. And I respect that. Tony's very honest. Having said that, the one thing that he really preaches and he talks about, and I know a few other DB coaches that are very similar in this, the guys that hit are the ones that are going to play. Screen game, run game. You can teach technique and covering the ball all day. But in today's world, when teams want to run at you and screen you to death to try to eliminate the power and size that FSU has inside, smart. They're going to screen you to death. Florida State's DBs, Jabril in particular, is a thumper. That's not common with corners. They're good players, man. Jerry is the best cover guy of the group, but Jabril might be the best all around. They have found the fit. So for them, I gave a B+, and I put hitters and opportunistic. Like Jerry's pretty opportunistic, no doubt. When they get a chance to lay a lick on somebody, that's another opportunity. They will do it. Finally, with this group, it's got some depth. So I gave them a B+. They can rotate a few guys in. I'm still high on Kai Bates, among others. They got 4 or 5 guys at corner, Arnaud, et cetera, like freshmen, sophomores. They got some players. Florida State's in a really good spot at corner. Safety, the 2 words that I used, smart, directors. They direct traffic. In Tony's defense, again, this is not the friendliest scheme to learn. But at the same time, it's not a position situation where you can just kind of subvert it. Either they figure it out or they got to sit. Because not only are you worried about what you're doing, you got to be layered. The spacing in that zone defense that they play, everybody's got to communicate well together and do it. So they direct from the back, and that's good. And they got to be smart to play in this scheme. 3 interceptions against a grad student quarterback. I know they gave up a bunch of points, bad tackling, etc. They understand the scheme way faster than I thought. So props to the safeties. I don't care if it's Earl Little or if it's Barker, whichever one you want to go with. I don't care. Shaheem Brown's played quite a bit here. He played quite a bit against Virginia. They have figured it out, and that's a good group. Overall, I gave them a B+. It would have been an A- if it wasn't for some of the missed tackles that they hadn't shown in the first 2 or 3 games, but they did not tackle very well at all in the game against Virginia. I still don't know what happened there. I'm very confused about that, but it is what it is, and I tell it like it is. Now, I just want to talk about real quick 2 things that I think they can improve on the most, and that number one, this will make people happy. I think the pass rush will improve because I think Tony will take a few more chances and probably pull out a few more things out of his bag. I absolutely do. I think he's going to be forced to, but I mean, I had a few people like on the YouTube page in the comments, you should blitz more, this, that, and the other. It's not that simple. You got to have the personnel to do what you want to do, and you got to think about the team you're going against. Florida State is going against Carson Beck this week, just as an example. There's nothing he hasn't seen. Every day at practice, he was going against Kirby's defense. That is not friendly. He has seen everything. Will they do it a ton against Miami? I don't know, because Miami's spring game is not bad, and their short passing game is very good. Blitzing against short passing games can get you killed because a 5-yard route turns into an 85-yard touchdown. There's a little bit of guesswork with it, but they need to blitz a little more. And then teams like Pittsburgh, NC State, they got a good young quarterback. Kid I know, he's got a gun, but he's a sophomore. Teams that don't have elite quarterbacks look for Florida State to fix the pass rush a little bit just by trying different fire zone or just bringing more heat. That's fine. And where's my biggest concern moving forward? It's just depth in general. This has been a concern from the beginning of the season, and that's not going to change. They've been lucky, like I talked about earlier with tight end. Randy Pittman goes out, man, that's a game-changing player. Like, look what he did. Threw a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and ran in a touchdown in a game. A tight end, he is a unique player. Florida State is very good there. They can't afford to lose him against Miami, against Pittsburgh, or anybody else. They need that kind of situation. What if Darryl got hurt? You know what I mean? There's certain guys that I'm just concerned about. And how do you fix all that? It's the blatant answer. It's the forest for the trees answer. Recruiting. There's no shortcut. Florida State's a good team, and they're a top 10 team in my opinion, but they can plummet very quickly because their top end, while good, their depth is still not anywhere near where it needs to be. They're nowhere close. We can sit there and say we like that, we dislike that, whatever. Florida State is not close. 2 more years? Maybe. It depends. I mean, got to give them credit. As fast as the Desir twins figured it out, how many more guys can be like that? I don't know. But Florida State definitely needs more depth. 1 more year at least of good recruiting, but we'll see. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day. We will see you again soon.